Welcome to the Transparency Room, presented by FareVet, where we bring your real stories from people reshaping the pet space. I'm your host, Emily, and today we're opening the series with the person behind the vision, FareVet's founder, Pietro. This episode is about why FareVets exist, why transparency in care matters, and how this podcast will become a space for real stories and real change. So, Pietro, take us back. What moment made you realize something needed to change in how pet care works?
The first time that I got this idea, it was because I almost lost my dog, King, who's been my loyal companion for the past 12 years. So what happened? It was one random day he swallowed a foreign object, and I had to bring him to an emergency room. And when I got to the emergency room, um, they quoted me a $5,000 surgery bill. And at that time, it was so unexpected that when the vet handed me the bill and he told me that I had 24 hours to decide if I wanted King to get that surgery. So I went back home and then started doing some research because imagine just a random day receiving a $5,000 veterinary bill. So I started doing some research early that morning, and it was hard. I spent a full day trying to call different vet clinics until I was able to speak to one clinic that quoted the same surgery at $1,500. But the thing was that, yes, I was able to find an alternative, but that situation left me traumatized, right? And I was always asking myself, is imagine I couldn't find that vet that was in my budget at that time, what would have happened to King, right? So that's when I started building FairVet. I wanted to build a platform that helps pet parents find and compare for affordable vet cost.
Yeah, so I know it would be really frustrating because I kind of have a similar experience. So I understand what it's like. So what gap did you see that made you decide to build Fair Fats rather than just accept the system as it was?
So the thing was that when I was searching online, I found that the only way you can compare vet costs was calling different vet clinics one by one or going door to door. Both of the way of comparing it was hard for me. Like, okay, waiting on busy line, right? Imagine when you're stressed out. You sometimes have less than 24 hours, right? Imagine you calling every vet clinic and sometimes they put you on hold. Sometimes they tell you, okay, you cannot we cannot give you an estimate while you're on the phone. So at that time I was like, okay, there's a gap in the system, right? We can compare a car like distance whenever you want to go with a you can take a Uber. You can decide, okay, this is way too much, it's $20, let me even take a train or take a bus just to arrive to your destination, right? You can compare food, and when it comes to our pet health, we can compare it and in an easy way, right? So I was like, okay, that's a gap, I have to fill it.
Yeah. So after listening that I totally understand the need of that and because I also faced similar experience like calling every vets to get a quote and that is
Yeah.
so frustrating. So I really understand it and I think it was a really great thing that you find this gap and you're trying to improve it. So for someone new to their vet, how would you describe what it actually does?
So FareVet, what we're basically trying to be, it's that go-to app, right? Whenever there's an emergency, we want you to use FareVet. Whenever you get a small puppy or a small kitten, right? You get that you go in a shelter, let's say you get your first puppy, your first kitten, we want you to use FareVet. If you have to decide, you have to euthanize your pet, and you don't know how much it's going to cost. We want you to use FareVet. So FareVet, we want people, especially people that wants to budget before going to the vet, we want to be that go-to app just to help them instead of them making sometimes a decision, and then that decision may lead to a pet dying because they don't have the funds, right? So yeah, that's where we want to be.
So, when you started reaching out to clinics or pet owners, what kind of reaction did you get?
So pet owners, it's always been, it was about time, right? I think every pet owner, um, those sentiment of feeling distressed because of a vet bill, it's a common thing for us, for all of us. When it comes to vet, it was 50-50, right? Some vets didn't properly understand what was the mission behind FairVet, right? It's almost like the some of them were like they were thinking that we were trying to expose cost, right? Expose cost, which is not what we are trying to do, right? We're just trying to bridge that gap, right? For someone to understand. We do understand that sometimes a vet can be more costly than the other. That's totally normal, right? It's sometimes you go to a fancy restaurant, sometimes you eat at McDonald's, right? Both of them are food. It doesn't mean that if you go to a cheaper one or you go to a most expensive one that your dog won't be treated in a good way, right? So that's where I had a small misunderstanding with vets, but when it came with time, a lot of vets they are being behind this project and understanding exactly what I'm trying to bring on the table, right? Trying to bridge that gap that's that create that trust because pet parents are scared sometimes, as you can see in multiple articles that came out this year. They are scared to go to the vet, right? It's not something that I'm saying, it's data that's showing because of sometimes not knowing how much they're going to pay. So that's where we want to come in and bridge that gap and bring back that trust of you trusting, okay, whenever I go to the vet, it's transparent. I know how much to expect, right? Even if it's $1,000, at least you know how much, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I totally understand that because there was a time I went to the vet and I didn't know how much. And then not until I was there and then they gave me a quote and it was totally out of my budget. So I
Imagine.
feel like, yeah, that would be really useful for like pet owners like us.
Yeah.
So yeah, so what's been your biggest surprise or learning since starting this journey?
So every day it's a learning curve, right? Every day it's a learning curve. It's just understanding how people want their information. One thing that when I first started for that, it was only manual search, right? So it was almost like booking an hotel and requesting whichever feature that you want, right? So for example, in our case, it's you go on the platform, and then let's say you're searching for, okay, my dog is 20 pounds and I'm looking for rabies vaccine. And then it filters and give you the proper cost. But one thing that I learned, it was that people want to have a conversation, right? Sometimes it's not just the service, but it's what's happening in the situation. For example, right, your dog is vomiting all day, right? And you don't know which step to take, right? If you go to a vet, you don't know what's the step that's going to be taken when you go to the vet. So that's one of the things that we are bringing right now with FairVet AI. It's through a conversation where you discuss what's happening. For example, my dog is vomiting, and then the AI take that information. You put your budget, you put your location, and then the AI is going to filter. and it's going to find you and give you a suggestion regarding your budget, right? If you have $200, okay, maybe it's overpriced right now, but let's maybe start with this, and then this is what may be required after, right? It's going to cost around this amount. So at least it gives you an idea of how much you're going to spend before going. And through a conversation, which I feel it's more fluid, instead of you just going manually to search.
Oh, so now, so it means that I can actually, um, like kind of know what to expect before going to the vet.
Yeah,
Is that
exactly. Yeah. Just like us having a conversation, it's like yourself having a conversation with, let's say, an expert on on vet cost, right? That's
oh,
what the AI is for us.
hmm. Yeah, so I kind of like just by listening, kind of looking forward to seeing what this is all about.
Yes, it's exciting. It's
Mm.
exciting, and it's coming out in a few days, and we can't wait to roll it out to the users.
So exciting. So, what inspired you to create this podcast, and how does it connect to VeriVet's mission?
So when it comes to the transparency room, which you're hosting, Emily, it's what I wanted. It's just a safe space where we can discuss everything regarding access, technology, innovation, everything that's bringing more to the pet parents out there, right? Um, I know there's a lot of podcasts, but we mostly want to focus on access and everything innovative that's helping pet parents save on costs. So that's the main focus that we are trying to do here. And every guest that's going to come in, I think will bring something on the table, and something that all the pet parents will love. So yeah, that's why it's inspired me to do it.
Yeah, it's very exciting. So, what kind of stories or voices do you hope to highlight here?
So it's stories from innovator, from vets, from people that are doing technologies that we haven't heard, or we heard but we want to hear more, right? It's we even want, if I'm able to find pet parents who can tell us their horror stories and what happened, what was the solution. We want to hear every type of stories, right, available out there, just to make this podcast the most informative podcast on pet care and vet services out there.
And if we look 1 year ahead, what impacts do you hope this podcast has had on the pet care space?
So just like FareVet, I'm really hoping that this podcast will be one of the podcasts that will help pet parents choose better product, um, know about new technology that may help their pets live longer, right? So we want to be that informative podcast, and I think by us having you as the host, I think you will do a wonderful job on getting the story out and making the guests feel as comfortable as possible. So yeah, I'm looking forward on the episode that's coming after me, right? Because I'm opening the podcast, but yeah, there's going to be a lot of good hosts that will follow after that.
So, Pietro, thank you for opening up and setting the tone for what's ahead. The Transparency Room is here to give voice to people reshaping the pet space, from clinic founders and innovators to pet owners finding new ways to care. So, I'm your host, Emily, and this was our first episode. Follow us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen. The Transparency Room is presented by FairVet, helping pet owners everywhere find charity, clarity, compassion, and fair care.
Thank you so much, Emily. Bye bye.